Welcome back, everybody. In the court of public opinion, the verdict when it came to the Dominique Strauss-Kahn rape case dramatically changed over the weekend. That with the shocking new revelations that brought the credibility of the alleged victim more so into question than anything you could think of. Kim Blengel, she's in the broadcast center with the very latest. Kim, welcome back.
Good evening, Rich. You know, it's been a wild 24 hours for Dominique Strauss-Kahn, going from vilified to nearly vindicated, and he's been released from house arrest, and his rape case against him is crumbling. Dominique Strauss-Kahn left his posh Manhattan townhouse this morning, wife by his side, and the slightest smile on his face.
We have been conducting.
In a matter of weeks or even days, the case against him could be kicked out of court, while his accuser, a hotel housekeeper with a checkered past, is being subject to the same rush judgment Strauss-Kahn experienced just a few short weeks ago.
She lied about the current offense and certain things surrounding it. That makes all the other lies in her past relevant.
And today, this headline from the New York Post calling her a hooker. The 32-year-old immigrant is suing the Post and 5 of its journalists for libel. The Post reports that the woman was having sex for money at taxpayers' expense by having multiple dates and encounters in her hotel room on the DA's dime.
Her credibility is important. Any rape victim's credibility is important. But you cannot become blind to the physical corroborating evidence.
While police confirm a sexual encounter, a 3-page letter from prosecutors outlined the accuser's lies and inconsistencies about the alleged rape.
I think you can understand why. We believed from the beginning that this case was not what it appeared to be.
Now, at this rate, legal experts say Strauss-Kahn could be a free man within just days and return to France. And get this, Rich, the accusations in France of what's going on here may have helped Strauss-Kahn become president. We'll see. Rich, back to you.
Oh, sex and politics. Whoever thought they'd have a connection? Thank you, Kim. All right. We are all too quick to assume guilt here. I can be guilty of that as well. And then too quick, possibly, to assume innocence. A lot of questions coming out of this. I want to bring the panel back in. Basil, I'll start with you. Listen, I've heard 2 competing arguments out of this to say, and we'll get to the perp walk thing in a second, but first, hey, we were all too quick. We threw this guy under the bus here before he had his day in court. On the flip side, the attorney for the maid saying, wait a second, the DA, he's cut my client loose here and thrown her under the bus. Right. Certainly, how she used her time in between when she first came forward and now the tough questioning and what she's already acknowledged she lied about make her a questionable witness, to put it mildly. But how do you feel about this?
Well, remember, we still don't know if he's really not guilty of this crime. We just know that the prosecution can't make their case. And I think it's unfortunate because for another woman to come forward to make accusations against a very rich and powerful individual, it's going to be that much harder for her. Let's think about the fact that this.
It's not like he exerted any pressures on the DA's office. Well, they had their case blow up in front of him.
We don't know a lot of that. What we do know is that despite anything that happened in this woman's past, the prosecution needed to find a way to make their case against this gentleman. They were very adamant about it. I mean, they did the perp walk. I mean, they actually went out of their way to make sure that they had that they vigorously, in the media at least, prosecuted this man. And I think that what we're seeing right now is really just kind of egg on the face of the district attorney.
Oh, because a lot of egg on the face. Virginia, I want to ask you though, not too many years ago, you'd have had been dealing with this situation right now. Mr. Morgenthau might have handled this differently. He was the DA at the time when you were there. Now Cy Vance is in his spot. They believe when she came forward, she had the most credible witness, she gave details, everything else. Then the more they dig, they find out that she lied about the reasonings that she was going to have asylum in this country from a citizenry purpose. She lied about who she reached out to and maybe some financial interests that were involved as well. All these things have built up. I think at this point, we'd be surprised if they don't kick Strauss-Kahn altogether. Forget about now he doesn't have house arrest. This guy may not face any charges.
Unfortunately, all of those factors will be taken into consideration. But it doesn't mean that she's lying about the fact that he raped her. And I think that that should not be lost in this case. I think that the district attorney should pursue as vigorously as they can the facts as
But they know it's a credible witness. I mean, you try and make that case.
Hey, because she is or is alleged to be a hooker does not mean she could not have been raped. And I think that's a mistake that's made in too many of these cases. And it's really damaging for women. If you are a hooker, you are somehow branded for life. Don't say that someone attempted to rape you. If you say no, you have the right to say no.
And in fact, in your post political life here, you're involved right now in an organization that right now there's an allegation this woman may have had HIV/AIDS here.
Absolutely.
And you're involved in this
And I wrote
issue
about
as well,
it,
right?
and I was absolutely outraged when that became a part of it, because people with HIV and AIDS are stigmatized and discriminated against in many ways. And to somehow tie this in almost as if to say, it's okay, or she shouldn't be deemed credible because she's HIV positive. All of those things, I mean, we know there's an imbalance in here. This is a woman coming from a very poor background, DSK coming from a very privileged and powerful, if we will, background. So that imbalance there, and everything is being thrown at her. But my point here, Rich, is we must not negate the fact that as long as the woman is saying that she was raped, that has to be followed and pursued by the DA.
I'm going to make you DSK for a second, Andrew. Lucky you.
Yeah. Oh, no, not sitting
now all
next
of a sudden,
to me.
the person bringing the case, right?
I'm sorry.
Pardonnez-moi. But the person bringing the case against you, you found out that just about everything that she said to the cops, we're not going to get into the allegations of abuse, is out the window. You're going to do that famous line from Ray Donovan here, remind people who this guy was and when he said this comment. I think it was 87, right?
Ray Donovan was the labor secretary under Ronald Reagan. He was indicted for something, I believe, when he had a position in New York City government, stood trial and was acquitted. And in 1987, on the courthouse steps in the Bronx, he said, "Oh, to which office do I apply to get my reputation back? Which office do I
He said,
go
I take
to
questions
get my
from all your
reputation
press,
back?"
but I have one question of my own, right?
Right. And if you're DSK and you think of yourself as a potential French president, yeah, certainly you've got that beef. Although he's also now got another rape allegation waiting for him back home. So I don't think he's free and clear to run for president of France. But
Virginia, on this point, and we dealt with this too, perp walks, okay? We've covered them before, and New York has made an art form out of it. A certain producer of mine goes back to the with the Chambers case here, where they made the guy walk the perp walk 7 times, reportedly, so that everybody got the profile shot. In many ways, and you've seen the French media going off about this, this is conviction before trial in many ways, at least as it relates to public opinion.
No.
I hate to defend this DSK guy, but at the same end, you keep parading him, you're going to get the picture right under the caption of Le Perv the next day in one of the daily rags. You know how this works here. They make sure the cameras are all ready and they walk him on by. It's a New York institution.
It is that, and until we change it, he has to walk it like everybody else.
don't we still release mugshots of people who were arrested in just this case? I mean, didn't the mugshot of Nick Nolte, you remember that famous one with his hair all...
James Brown, how many other people have?
Absolutely.
Doesn't
I
that
mean,
little
it's
different than
ridiculous.
duck it under, putting the
ridiculous.
jacket over the
It's really not
cuffs?
the same
Yeah,
thing. Once you're standing there with your name and your numbers on, I mean, you look like a criminal. You look like anybody in a wanted
But you
poster
believe in due
anywhere.
process. You're supposed to be getting you're innocent until proven guilty. Doesn't this apply to the opposite?
There is no innocent until proven guilty in the perp walk. They do this so that you can look as guilty as possible. That is the purpose of it. I do have a problem with that. I do have a problem with it. Every time I see a lot of young Black and Latino men being, paraded out of a police precinct with something over their head or head hanging down. I mean, that bothers me. It bothers me in a lot of different instances because we're convicting before.
There's also a little bit of the hunters bringing back the 6-point buck that they bagged out in the. I mean, that's probably not a great analogy, but that's. I mean, they're trying to show off and look. We got our person. We got the suspect here.
Just so everybody suspends any disbelief. First, they call the press. They say, make sure you're out there ready. They bring him to the squad car. If somebody says I didn't get their shot, depending on the precinct, they'll parade him back around until you get it. And you've worked in other markets. That's not always the
When I
case.
left this market into markets that didn't have perk walks, I remember getting into fights with the police department. They're like, why aren't you walking the guy? We had our camera ready. It's
This man
apparently
might
a
very
New
well
York
be
thing.
French president, though. I'll
Believe
tell you
that. Unbelievable.